What's up, Buttercups? It's me, Amy Young. I'm coming at you with a Friday freestyle where I will be sharing a principle that I learned in my time in the comedy world that I think is so brilliant to transplant onto your love life. Specifically, if you are a single woman who maybe has a history of getting involved with people who, in retrospect, weren't the best people to get involved with. Like when you look back, you can see, geez, there were things that I didn't pay attention to on the first, second, third, fourth, fifth dates that if I had paid a little more attention, I would have gone, future problem area. So yeah, if you aren't aware, my background is largely in performance. So before I fell into the magical world of coaching, I was living in New York. I was an actor, I was a comedian. I was studying and performing improv comedy with a wonderful team of individuals. One of the biggest principles that they teach you in improv comedy, when you are just making up a world and a scene and a cast of characters live in front of people in real time, one of the biggest principles is, if this is true, what else is true? That's the statement. If this is true, what else is true? And what that really means is, if we're establishing a world together, if me and my scene partner are establishing a world and we're attempting to flesh it out and make it as detailed and rich as possible, well, then we need to consider that if certain things are true about the world that we're establishing, that we're creating on that stage, then what else might be true? What could we infer is also true about that world? So a really easy example is if we establish a scene that a dog is the leader of the free world, right? That all politicians in charge are dogs. If that is true in that world, then what else might be true? Well, it might be true that cats are the ultimate evil in this imaginary world. It might be true that your tax return comes in kibble format, right? Can you see how this works? If it's true that dogs are in charge of the free world, then what else might be true? I bet there's a lot more sprinklers around. So then we can fill out this world and create new scenes and engage with each other in these different ways by applying these other truths. So it creates a much richer, more interesting comedic experience for everyone involved. Now, in your dating life, when you're getting to know someone new, especially if you're trying to be a little more aware of those red flag moments, of those, I'm not sure about this, or I'm not sure about you moments, I'm not sure I'm crazy about that moments, it's really helpful to bring this lens to that experience with this person, right? Not necessarily with a fine-tooth comb, because a certain part of the dating process is just having to accept that you need to spend time with someone to get to know them and see the full scope of who they are. But for example, if you sit down with someone on date one and you notice right away that when it comes to conversing with the restaurant staff, ordering a drink at the bar, talking to the hostess, that this guy has a major attitude problem, like he's got a huge fucking stick shoved up his ass and he seems to be walking around with a certain air of entitlement, or he's complaining a lot, right? We want to take that in and consider, if you're rude to the waitress, if that is true, what else is potentially true? If that's just how you treat a stranger who's here to serve you, right? Who's just working and doing her damn job, trying to make the most of probably a very difficult night. I waited tables for years. I know how shitty it can be. And you're giving her a hard time. If that is true, what else is potentially true about you? Dude, what else should I not ignore because maybe you're very good looking or super charming, or you're being kind of like funny and coy at the same time. You know, these things, I talk about this habit of cherry picking that we sometimes have, where we see something that we don't like, but then we just sort of selectively, unconsciously choose to ignore it because we just want to focus on the other like 7/10 of what we really do like. And applying this principle is about putting a magnifying glass over that potential red flag, over that problematic behavior, over that quality or trait that we see that is probably not going to work for us in terms of long-term compatibility, or just in terms of like relational happiness and satisfaction, and choosing not to ignore it, choosing to recognize that if someone is being rude to the waiter, and this is date one, and on date one it is most people's desires to make a really good impression on you, what does that say about this person? What else is probably true about them? Why do they have this chip on their shoulder? Where else is that going to show up in their lives? Where else is that going to show up potentially for you if you choose to continue entertaining this connection? Now, this might not be the best example because when I have conversations with people, right, when I'm helping my clients suss out, well, what are those red flags for you that you need to be a little more aware of? What are your standards, your musts, your would-be nices? This tends to be a big one for people. Like most people thankfully tend to be like, I need to see him being kind and respectful to wait staff. But this could apply to anything, right? Like if it's the end of date 1 and he's driving you home and he says, hey, you know, it'd be really fun if you came back to my place. I think that we would have a good time together. And you say, yo, you know, that sounds honestly like really tempting. I had a good time, but I think I should just go home. And he starts giving you pushback on that. He starts giving you a hard time about that. Ooh, what does that say? If he's giving us pushback on date 1 about a potential physical boundary that we're setting, if that is true, what else might be true about him? Where else is he gonna be giving us some pushback, not honoring our boundaries? So this is one of my favorite, honestly, kind of like life principles to apply, right? It helps us just see these analogous similarities and examples, and helps us flesh out the fullness of who someone might be, what a situation could be like, things that we should just maybe be a little bit extra aware of. I think it's really worth at least taking and playing with, right? Because you don't want to be ignoring that stuff, right? You don't want to be noticing a red flag and just go, well, no, we will just put that aside because he looks like fucking Thor. So who cares if he's being rude to the waiter and disrespecting my boundaries? I care if he's being rude to the waiter and disrespecting your boundaries, especially if you know that that's not gonna work for you. So take this and run with it, play with it. Don't be afraid to acknowledge if something doesn't work for you or if something is problematic or unappealing, or if you just know that it's a no-go. When you know, you know. And it's not gonna be worth it to you or to this other person to waste either of your time. Capiche? Makes sense? I think that makes sense. So yeah, so this is the principle. If this is true, what else is true? Take it, run with it, play with it. And while you're at it, since you're already here, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel, right? Maybe like this video if it struck a chord. You can also head to amyyoungcoaching.com. The link is down in the description box if you want to get on my email list so you can get updates, so you can learn more about me and my work in the world. It would be awesome to connect with you that way. And until next time, very, very soon, I hope.